intimidating, right?
Yeah, it definitely has a reputation.
But today, we are diving into a system from sleekoptions.com called Sleek One, and it promises to be both safe and profitable.
Music to my ears. Who doesn't want that?
Exactly. So, Sleek One, where do we even begin?
Well, first off, you don't need to be a Wall Street wizard to make this work. It's actually designed for folks who are just dipping their toes into the options trading pool.
I like that. So no need to be like a millionaire to get started.
Not at all. They recommend having around $10,000 ready to invest, but the real beauty of this system is its emphasis on capital preservation.
Okay, so protecting what you've earned, that's key.
Absolutely. Think of it like this. Instead of jumping into the deep end, we're wading in slowly, getting a feel for the water before diving head first.
I'm all about minimizing risk, especially with something as, well, potentially volatile as options trading.
Exactly. And that's where focus symbols come in. This is one of the core principles of Sleek One.
Focus symbols. Okay, that sounds intriguing, but a little cryptic. Break it down for me.
Sure, instead of trying to track every single stock out there, you pick just 3.
Wait, just 3? That seems almost too simple.
It's about quality over quantity. These aren't random picks, though. These 3 symbols represent companies that you believe in, companies you're willing to really get to know over a 6-month period.
Okay, so it's about becoming an expert on those 3 companies, understanding their every move.
Exactly. You're doing deep dives into their financials, their leadership, their competition, everything.
So by focusing on just 3, you're gaining a deeper understanding than someone who's spread thin across, like, dozens of stocks.
Precisely. You're developing a keen sense of their rhythms, their patterns, which helps you make smarter trading decisions.
This is making a lot of sense so far, but I have to ask, even with all the research in the world, there's always that element of risk, right?
Of course. And that's where the multi-lot strategy comes into play. It's all about minimizing your exposure while maximizing potential gains.
Okay, multi-lots. This sounds like where we start actually putting money on the table.
Exactly. But instead of throwing your entire bankroll at a single trade, you break it down into smaller lots.
So it's less about going all in and more about calculated risks.
You got it. Let's say you're looking at one of your focus symbols and you see a promising opportunity. Instead of investing the maximum 4% of your $10,000 right away, which would be $400, you might start with a smaller starter lot.
So testing the waters before diving in headfirst.
Exactly. Let's say you put down, I don't know, $200 as a starter lot. If things look good, you can always add more. And if they don't, well, Sleek One has a plan for that too. But before we get into damage control, there's another piece of this puzzle that I find pretty clever.
Oh, lay it on me. I love a good strategy session.
This system encourages you to think in terms of 2 separate accounts.
2 accounts. Okay, now you've got my attention. I'm intrigued, but also a little scared I might mix them up.
Don't worry, it's pretty intuitive once you wrap your head around it. You've got your capital account, and then you've got your profit account.
So just to be clear, our initial $10,000, that's going into the capital account, right?
Exactly. That's your base camp, your solid foundation, your multi-lot trades. Those all come from your capital account.
And the profit account. That's where things get a little more interesting.
You could say that. Think of it like this. Every time you close a winning trade from your capital account, you get to transfer 50% of that profit over to your profit account.
So it's like giving yourself a bonus for making a smart move.
Exactly. It's a reward system that keeps you motivated. Now, this profit account, it's not just about padding your ego. Once it hits $250, that's when things get really exciting.
Okay, $250. What happens at $250? Do we get like a celebratory cake or something?
Close. We unlock what Sleek One calls the profit cycle. This is where you get to really amplify those returns.
Profit cycle. It sounds almost like, I don't know, a high-speed chase scene in a movie.
In a way, it kind of is. So you hit that $250 mark. Now you get to make not 1, but 2 trades back-to-back, both aiming for maximum returns.
Hold on. 2 trades just from those profits we set aside. I'm liking the sound of this profit cycle more and more. But even with, house money, we're not going all in on a single trade, are we?
We are not. Even with our profit account, risk management is still key.
Okay, good to know. So walk me through this. Say my profit account is at $250, ready to roll. What's the play?
For your first profit account trade, you typically invest a significant chunk, say 80%. So in your case, that'd be $200.
$200 riding on that first trade.
Got it.
What about the other 20%?
Here's the clever part. You transfer that 20%, which would be, let's see, $10 straight back to your capital account.
So even when we're playing with house money, we're still strengthening that foundation.
I like
All
it.
right.
So that first trade is out there doing its thing. We've got $40 left in our profit account. What now? Time for that second trade. Remember, we're still aiming for maximum gains here. You'd invest 80% of that remaining balance, which comes out to $32. And here's where the cycle part comes in. Win or lose on that second trade, we hit the reset button. That entire remaining profit account balance, it all gets merged back into your capital account.
So it's like we took a quick spin, potentially boosted our capital, and now we're back to building towards that $250 profit cycle threshold again.
Exactly. Rinse and repeat.
I have to say, this system is growing on me. But you mentioned earlier about a plan for when a trade, doesn't go as planned. What happens if our starter lot trade starts heading south?
Right. Because let's face it, not every trade is going to be a winner.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
So let's say my starter lot trade on, I don't know, let's say Apple, just isn't moving in the right direction. What's the next move?
This is where the second lot comes in, along with the concept of a dip setup.
Okay, more jargon. I'm ready. Hit me.
Sleek One recommends waiting for what they call a dip setup alert from their platform. Basically, this means the stock's price has dipped temporarily.
So it's like instead of panicking and selling when a stock goes down, we're looking for opportunities to buy low.
Exactly. You're essentially bargain hunting. And the second lot is where you take advantage of that dip. It'll typically match the dollar amount of your initial starter lot.
So in our Apple example, we put in our $200 starter lot. Things are looking a little shaky, but then we get that dip setup alert. We invest another $200, bringing us to that maximum $400 investment for the trade.
You got it.
Okay, that makes sense. But what if our starter lot is already doing well? Let's say it hits a 40% profit. Do we just let it ride?
Sleek One is all about locking in profits. When a capital account trade reaches that 40% mark, they recommend cashing out.
Right, because a profit in hand is always better than, but what happens to those profits? We talked about a 50-50 split, right?
Exactly. So in this scenario, you're pocketing a $40 profit from your initial $200 investment. Half of that $20 goes straight into your profit account, inching you closer to that $250 profit cycle.
And the other $20.
Back to your capital account, ready to be reinvested.
So we're constantly building that base, even while we're aiming for those profit cycle home runs.
Precisely.
I have to say, this Sleek One system, it's more intricate than I initially thought, but in a good way. It's like a constant loop of strategic investing, but with these bursts of, excitement built in.
It's all about finding that balance.
Exactly. Speaking of balance, we've talked a lot about managing our money, but we haven't really touched on how to actually choose those focus symbols in the first place. That feels like a whole other conversation.
It is. It's kind of like, choosing your team. You want players who are in it for the long haul.
Right, not just a flash in the pan. But before we get too deep into picking focus symbols, didn't we leave off with a cliffhanger? My profit account is sitting at $250, ready for action. Time for those profit cycle trades, right?
Ah, yes. You've been patiently building toward this. Now's your chance to potentially accelerate those returns.
Okay, so let's make this real. Say my focus symbols are leaning tech-heavy. Apple, Tesla, and, Amazon. Feeling pretty bullish on Tesla right now. Can I just go all in with my $250?
While I admire the enthusiasm, remember, even with our profit account, we're not throwing caution to the wind. We're still sticking to the Sleek One game plan.
Right. No need to get reckless. So no Tesla takeover with my profit account.
Not quite. Sleek One recommends investing around 80% of your profit account on that first trade. So let's say that'd be $200 riding on Tesla's coattails.
Got it. $200 on trade number one. Now, what about the other 20%? Just let it sit there.
Not at all. This is where we reinforce our base. Remember that 20%, which comes out to $10, gets transferred right back to our capital account.
Ah, right. Like a little bonus deposit.
Yeah.
Even when we're playing with, house money, we're still strengthening that foundation. I like it.
It's all about balance.
Yeah.
Exactly. So our first trade is out there. Tesla's hopefully skyrocketing. We've got $40 left in our profit account. What's the play?
Time for that second profit account trade, aiming for those maximum gains again. You'd invest 80% of what's left, which, if my math is right, is around $32.
Okay, $32 riding on trade number two. Then what?
And this is where the cycle part comes full circle. Win or lose on that second trade, we hit the reset button.
Meaning? Everything disappears.
Not exactly. Whatever's left in your profit account, it all gets merged back into your capital account.
So it's like we took a little detour, potentially boosted our capital, and now we're back on the main road, building towards that next $250 profit cycle.
Precisely.
I'm starting to see why they call this system sleek. It's elegant, it's strategic. I gotta give it to them.
It's definitely a well-thought-out approach.
Yeah.
And the best part is it's designed to help you become a more disciplined, more informed trader.
Which at the end of the day is what it's all about, right? Making smart decisions, managing risk, and hopefully seeing those profits roll in.
Well, I don't know about you, but I'm feeling a lot more confident about dipping my toes into the options trading waters now, thanks to Sleek One. It's been a fascinating deep dive.
I agree. It's a system with a lot of potential, especially for those who are just starting their trading journey.
And for anyone listening who's ready to take that next step, we'll be sure to include all the resources you need in the show notes.
Definitely.
Until next time, happy trading, everyone.